Let's begin Basic Skills Review number 12, Solving One-Step Equations. For those of you in pre-algebra, this will be one of your actual in-class assignments to prepare ourselves to begin Chapter 2 of our book. So all of our pre-algebra students will be doing this as a part of their homework in class. Algebra 1 students, this should be a very simple review for you as you have moved on to much more complicated equations. So when solving one-step equations, your goal is to isolate the variable, or to get the variable by itself. To do this, you must use inverse operations. So if the number that you are trying to get rid of is positive, you would subtract. If the number you are trying to get rid of is negative, you would add. So don't try to think of it as subtraction. If I'm adding, I subtract, and if I'm subtracting, I add, because sometimes that's not the case, and we'll look at that in a moment. Also, if you are multiplying, you're going to divide, and if you are dividing, you're going to multiply. So let's take a look at these four examples. X plus 4 equals 12. The first thing I want to do is circle the variable that I want to get alone. When I take that off, I see that I have a positive 4. Positive 4, then I would need to subtract 4 from both sides. Now I know that most of you can look at x plus 4 equals 12 and know the answer is 8. It's very important that you solve it correctly because we're getting ready to start more complicated equations and you need to know the process. So if we subtract 4 from both sides, we get x equals 12 minus 4, and 12 minus 4 is 8. You can check your work by writing your equation, substituting 8 in for x. If both sides of the equation are equal, then you were correct. The second example, negative 5 plus x equals 12. The first thing I want to do is to get x alone. In order to get x alone, I need to get rid of negative 5. To get rid of negative 5, I need to do the opposite of negative 5, or the inverse of negative 5, and I need to add 5 to both sides. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0, so that leaves x by itself, and 12 plus 5 is 17. You can check your work by rewriting your equation, negative 5 plus x equals 12, substituting 17 in for x, so negative 5 plus 17 equals 12. This is adding opposite, or adding different signs. So the first thing I notice is that I have more positives, so my answer is going to be positive. I subtract my 2. 17 minus 5 is 12. And since both sides are equal, I know that I did it correctly. Let's move on to an equation with multiplication. 3 times x equals negative 12. In order to solve this, I need to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by positive 3. Remember that that division bar, that fraction bar, means to divide, not to subtract. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. That leaves x by itself. Negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. So x equals negative 4. Again, I can check my work by substituting into the original equation. X is negative 4, so I'll put it in for x. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 12 equals negative 12, so we know we did it correctly. Our last example is division. X divided by negative 6 equals 12. I need to get x by itself. I have a divided by here, so I'm going to do the opposite of division, and I'm going to multiply. When I multiply, these are going to cancel. X equals 12 times negative 6. 12 times negative 6 is negative 72. I can check it by substituting into my original equation. Negative 72 for x divided by negative 6 is positive 12. And if I do my division, negative 72 divided by negative 6 is 12. So I know that I did my work correctly. Let's go down to the guided practice and do these problems together. Here I want to get x by itself, so I have to subtract 6 from both sides because I'm left with positive 6. If I want it to be 0, 6 minus 6 is 0. 12 minus 6 is 6, so x equals 6. You can always check your answer to make sure you got it correct. Number 2, I need to get x by itself. In order to get to get x by itself, I need to get rid of negative 8. To make negative 8 0, I need to add 8 to both sides. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. X equals 10 plus 8, which is 18. So x equals 18. Number 3, I need to get x by itself in the equation negative 4 times x equals negative 48. Since I'm multiplying, I'm going to do the opposite and divide. Remember not to subtract because this fraction bar means to divide. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. So I get x equals negative 48 divided by negative 4, which is positive 12. The last example is x divided by 7 equals negative 5. We need to get x alone, so we're going to multiply, the opposite of division, both sides by the number that needs to go away. The number that needs to go away is 7, so these two are going to cancel. X equals negative 5 times 7. Negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. Once you are confident that you are able to solve simple one-step equations, and it is very important that you are confident in it because we're getting ready to start more complicated equations in pre-algebra, and Algebra 1 students, you are already doing more complicated equations. So once you feel confident, you may turn to the homework number 12, and you can go ahead and start working the equations. Use your notes. Do not guess. Do not use a calculator. Again, you're going to be graded and there will be a quiz over this material. So make sure that you take your time, use your notes, and solve all 8 equations.